It's early morning on an airstrip in southern Georgia. The fog is slowly lifting, allowing these pilots and volunteers to begin their important task. It's a task driven not only by a love of flying, but a love of something more. A love of animals, of friendship, and those friends in dire need locked in a shelter, on the verge of being destroyed. These men and women answer a call, a duty to help, to volunteer time and resources, to help these animals find their way home. Jeff Bennett is a businessman, a pilot, and one of over 3,000 volunteer pilots with Pilots and Paws. On his next mission, Jeff will fly from Marathon Key, Florida to Greenville, Alabama, where he'll complete his 2,000th rescue.
I fly for Pilots and Paws mainly because I found that the majority of these animals don't have anybody else advocating for them. You got hundreds of programs for people. Unfortunately, the dogs have very few, if any. So a dog that gets put into a rural shelter doesn't have a chance of coming out, or has a very low chance of coming out. So by us being able to, combining our love of flying with love of animals, we're able to take those dogs from those rural areas and get them to places where they're more easily adopted. So it's a win-win for the dogs and for the pilots and for the rescues, actually.
The problem is there are not enough homes for the dogs that are in shelters that are going to die. That's the simplest way I can put it. There are more dogs than people looking for them from shelters. And until and unless that equation changes, millions of dogs are going to die every year.
And this is especially true for rural shelters throughout the South, where rescuers will work endlessly to find a dog a home on one day, only to find them destroyed on the next. It's a startling fact of the overpopulation problem in the United States. About every 11 seconds, an animal is euthanized.
Pilots and Paws got started when Debbie Boys, a friend of mine, needed to pick up a Doberman in Tallahassee that she had adopted. She lived in South Carolina, was going to drive down to Tallahassee to pick it up, and I opted to fly down, pick up the pup, and bring it back to her. She wasn't even aware that that could be done. So we agreed to do it. I picked up her husband, Bob. We flew down, picked up the pup, and brought it back to her.
And I was astounded. I thought to myself, my gosh, who offers this? This is so kind, so generous. And I said, John, are you serious? And he said, of course I'm serious. Pilots love to fly. They're always looking for a reason. Sometimes they just get in their planes and go for a hamburger in the next county. You know, I'll just go down and bring them home. And I said, that'd be great. So he did, and when he came back, he posed the question to me, do you need to move these animals? Is this just a local thing? Is it a one-time thing? And my response to him at the time was just, you have no idea. You really have no idea how many animals are killed in shelters that could go on to have happy lives. Very young organization, although I'm proud to say we have over 3,000 pilots, and we have approximately 15,000 people who interact and use our website to connect pilots with rescue and shelter organizations to move these animals.
The whole purpose behind Big Fluffy Dog Rescue is to try to save dogs from euthanasia. 1,200 dogs a year is not insignificant, but it is a drop in the proverbial bucket. I can't save every dog. If I could, it would be great, but it's not possible. All I can do is focus on what's in front of me and what I can help. And I say a prayer for those that I cannot. But literally, for every dog that makes it in the door at Big Fluffy Dogs, that dog is one of the luckiest dogs on the planet, because there will be 200 that don't make it in and die, and those are realistic numbers.
When it's a choice of life or death, you make that decision. It's a split second. I will sometimes grab an animal without knowing where it's going to go, not necessarily having a foster setup, not necessarily knowing what home I will find or what rescue I might work with to find it a home. But if it's in need and one of my shelters has asked me for help, or if it's an animal that's been injured, I'll step up and do it. My vet, well, put it this way, we did, about a year and a half ago, we took all my files at my vet's office and stacked them between my 3 rescues, and it was over 9 inches tall. And I've been working with that vet for maybe 4 to 5 years.
Well, I've had, we've always had dogs ever since I was born. We started with a boxer. Then, gosh, I can't remember all the dogs, but we've always had dogs at the house. My first dog was a cockapoo mix that had standard poodle in him, so he was a bit larger. And we went everywhere together. He'd pull me around on my skateboard and stuff like that. So I originally grew up in Southern California, in the Torrance area, Los Angeles County. Lived there until I was 18, went in the military, spent 11 years in the Navy, and then took a job with General Dynamics for 1 year. Wasn't crazy about it, so I moved down to the Keys and went into business. And I've been here ever since. The reason why I love Big Pine Key is it's quiet. It's far enough away from Key West or Marathon to stay away from the rat race and a lot of the bars. But it's quiet. It's pretty much back to nature. We have deer that come in our yard, iguanas that come in the yards. If you like it quiet, Big Pine's a great place. We have 4 dogs, all rescues. Pets are pretty straightforward. They don't play games. What you see is what you get with a dog. So, you know, if the dog's happy, the dog's happy. When you come home, if you don't feel that well, they'll make sure you feel happy. So, I don't know what there's not to love about a dog.
My connection with dogs go back to my childhood. I had a very traumatic and not good childhood, and my connection was always to my dogs that I had. My dogs understood me. My dogs loved me unconditionally. My dogs were always there for me. So my life without a dog wouldn't be a life. I have to have a dog, not only for me, but for them and the bond that we share. As a person, you want to be loved and you want to have a bond. And as a pack animal, a dog, they want to have love and they want to have a bond. And I'm able to freely give, and so are they. And so I can never not have a dog. They're instrumental in my life.
I grew up with a dog that was kept outside in a pen on a doghouse. My dad, grew up on a rural farm in Kansas. The attitude was everybody should have a dog, and the dog got petted, but the dog was not part of the family. And I look back on it and cringe at this point. Actually, I didn't get my first dog until I was married, and the running joke was that Troy wouldn't allow me to have a dog until we had a house. So we got a house pretty quickly after we got married.
What I love about a dog is just their approach to life. That a toy, a tennis ball, a chew, a rawhide, that's all they really want. I mean, that they want love, they want attention, they want to be in your lap, basically, or they really want to connect. Even if they're damaged, they want to connect. You can see it in their eyes. And to work with that and to be able to take them to that place where they're just happy again it's rewarding, it's exciting, and it's something that I don't know if I could ever give that up. I have personally been involved in Pilots and Paws issues where there's an animal that's seriously injured that they needed to get to a rescue in another location. And it never ceases to amaze me that they can move on a dime and make this happen and get that animal to safety. I can only imagine the cost it is for that pilot to do what he does in both time, gas, wear and tear on his plane, to move those 6, 8, 12 animals, and I'm forever grateful for what they did. My own rescue dog came up from Florida on a Pilots and Paws. The least stress for her was a short-term flight from Florida to here and to get to me. Plus the logistics of a land transport run from Florida to here, it's not a common route. It probably wasn't going to happen.
The volunteer pilots of Pilots and Paws are most inspiring. However, with over 40,000 animals flown to open arms and families, these pilots are just one part of this incredible journey.
From my point of view, the ground people are the true heroes. They're the ones who go into the shelters. They're the ones who have to see the devastation that's put behind by those that are running puppy mills or refuse to spay and neuter their animals. They're the ones who decide who lives, who dies, based on the fact that they know if they don't pull a particular animal, that animal most likely won't be there next week. So that's tough. That's a tough one. I get the good part. I get to take the ones that they have saved and usually nurse back to health, and I get to move them to where they're going to hopefully find a new home.
Most of the time, we'll get an email from a shelter or a volunteer from a shelter that says, "Hey, we have this dog; it's in need." Sometimes we get owner surrenders, where the owner itself will contact us and say, "I need help with this dog." Depending upon where the dog is and what the situation is, our response varies. If the dog is in a kill shelter where we have a time limit, then we know that we've got to get on it. And at that point, the issue becomes, where is the dog? Where are we taking the dog? How are we going to get it there? And what does it need? Those are the first things that we look at. The dog goes straight to the vet. We vet the dog. Then the dog will go to a foster home or boarding, depending upon if we have availability.
For a rescue to happen at all, the two most important things that have to be in place first is going to be a rescue that's going to be responsible for that animal, and two is a foster, a space for that animal to go to either be short-term, in case it's a day or two or an overnight before they go to their next location, or to be long-term. Without fosters, none of the other things could happen.
And then from there, the dog will sit in a foster home for a couple of weeks, and then eventually it goes to one of our foster homes, either up north or Midwest. And from there it goes to get adopted. Just getting a dog from point A to point B has evolved from a multi-stop approach where you would have a group of people driving point A to point B to point C, and so on in a linear fashion. Now it's a completely different ball game as to how we move dogs around.
Get up usually about 6 o'clock in the morning. Obviously get ready to go, come up here to the airport, do the checks on the aircraft, make sure that everything is set for the flight, check the oil, do the walk around the airplane, load the crates, clean the windshield, and usually get in the air right around sunrise. There's a lot of freedom involved with flying, and that's what I really love about it. As long as I'm outside a controlled space, I can turn the radios off. It can be completely quiet. Any problems you have on the ground are gone. It's just, it's like heaven.
In Greenville, Jeff is met by Ed Golly, a fellow volunteer pilot with Pilots and Paws. Once on the ground, Jeff and Ed meet with Rebecca Harshman, the Alabama coordinator and Candy's kilo of Second Chance Rescue, as they travel to a local shelter to pull 2 puppies in need of a home. In conjunction with the Butler County Humane Society, Candy's, or the Pet Nanny as she's so affectionately called, works closely with other rescue groups, shelters, and Rebecca to save as many animals as possible. For all of them, every animal deserves a second chance.
What's your name? What's your name? Can you tell me a little bit about them? Look like maybe about 9 weeks?
About 9 weeks old. They came in yesterday as strays.
Yes.
They appear to have the mange.
We can take care of that. We can take care of that.
So they just need some TLC and a good home.
Well, puppies are easy to find a rescue for. We normally hardly ever leave a puppy behind. And small dogs also are easy to find a rescue for. We basically look at their temperament also, but in puppies, I mean, basically every puppy has a clean slate until it gets in its owner's home. We pull the big dogs from the shelter, we bring them out here, and we put them in these outdoor kennels because we can save more dogs that way.
Is that the border collie I'm taking tomorrow?
Yes, that's Shaggy. That dog is spending the night here, and will be on your plane tomorrow, headed to Deltona to Giselle. And as you can see, there's a wide variety.
So how many of these are going with us tomorrow?
Those 2 puppies are going. Shaggy's going.
Okay.
Most of the rest of them are going to be the little dogs. This is the #1 yard, and the small dogs and puppies are here. And as you can see, we have a few puppies. These will be a few of your passengers tomorrow. Come on, Bubs. Come on.
Oh.
These are the 17.
Wow.
These are Ruth's dogs.
Look at this one.
There's 17 puppies going on a flight tomorrow.
These are bobtailed.
They look like, their mother is a Shih Tzu. Yeah.
Really?
Their mother is a Shih Tzu.
Look at the face on this guy.
They're all healthy. And they were just born in the dirt, you know, in somebody's backyard.
Wow.
But they're adorable.
Oh, those guys.
This is another litter, same situation.
And these guys, these going tomorrow?
Going tomorrow. Aren't they adorable? And these are going tomorrow. All those are going tomorrow.
Oh, we got a cute crew tomorrow.
Yeah. That's
Look
them.
how fat this guy is.
I know, they're cute. This particular dog was tied to someone's porch, and the people that lived there walked off and abandoned it. The neighbors fed it and went in together to have her pay for her spay neuter, and she's going to Kentucky Saturday to a pit bull rescue. Yeah, we're excited about that. And these are the kind of puppies that people will put in a box at Walmart and give away. Those are about the cutest litter of puppies I've seen in a while. And this is what we call the pet nanny house. And it's where the infant puppies and infant kittens stay, and small dogs. And this is just a stop off, you know, until we can get them healthy, vaccinated, quarantined, and on either to another rescue or to adoption.
I know I don't have any kittens on the trip tomorrow, so these guys haven't found a home
Hey,
yet.
we can stow away if you.
That's what you
We'll
think.
put one in the photographer's pocket.
These 2 little guys will go through what all animals do when they come to Rebecca and Candy's, a 2-week quarantine to make sure they're healthy and disease-free. a round of immunizations to keep them that way, and then something neither are looking forward to, but something that is a key component to ending the overpopulation problem. They'll both be neutered.
And then they'll go on their freedom flight with you to be in. Okay, you'll hold that one for a minute if you want to put those two there.
While the Greenville mission is a smaller challenge, 60 or so pets on their way to Orlando, sometimes a crisis hits and far more volunteers are needed. Following the 2010 oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, the shelters both in and surrounding New Orleans were overwhelmed. Already displaced families once again having to relocate caused an influx of abandoned animals. Luckily, with a sense of determination, the volunteers, both on the ground and in the air, were able to coordinate a massive airlift.
You can clearly see the need.
Yes.
These animals that we're transporting today would all be euthanized if we weren't doing this transport.
You know, these dogs have no idea that they've only got days to live and they're being saved, you know, and it's too bad because I think they'd be very appreciative if they knew. But it's just great that you know that you're saving dogs. You know, there's a lot of dogs dying every day, but, you know, we're putting a dent in them today, at least 150 dogs. That's 150 less that's going to, you know, go down. It's just about giving back, you know. If you're fortunate enough to have an airplane like this and the skills to fly it, I just think it's your, you know, it's just the right thing to do. And to offer up your support, help these dogs out. No one else is going to help these dogs out, and to just give back. It's, you know, that's what life's all about, is giving back.
A bit nervous, packed in, but on their way home. And while natural or man-made disasters can get the troops moving, unfortunately, the flow of abandoned or surrendered animals into already cramped shelters is constant. Once a year, the volunteers of Pilots and Paws meet at various locations throughout the Southeast with one goal: pull every animal from the surrounding area and get them home. This is what happened during Operation Special Delivery in Hinesville, Georgia.
We woke up at a nice reasonable hour, something around, I don't know, 6 o'clock or so. Got cleaned up, got downstairs, had the transport take us to the airport. Of course, you can see we're socked in a little bit, so that delays things. Now it's just a question of all the pilots finding their dogs, getting their paperwork, and waiting for the weather to clear. After that, we'll all take off and be good to go. Today I coordinated the Florida pilots, so the dogs that were all heading south. We had a couple of dogs coming in from North Carolina, some from South Carolina. We had a pilot go over to Alabama, and all combined we're moving somewhere around 187 dogs. Ground personnel from here coming in from different areas, so there's a lot of coordination that the ground personnel have to do. Karen Talbot, who's doing the one for this transport, is dealing with several shelters, and she gets the dogs quarantined, gets all their health records together, et cetera, and then make sure they get here and then gets them assigned with the pilots. So it's a lot of effort. All the pilots do once we get them on the plane is take them where they need to go with rescues on the other end and offload them.
Jeff's plane. This is the 2000th passenger. Aww. Oh. Jeff's plane.
Well, what you learn when you do this, you all start by putting a dog in what you would consider a comfortable crate for the dog to turn around, stand up, do things. But when you realize you're only going to have the dog in the crate for an hour, hour and a half, and if you don't take the dog gets euthanized, you start realizing how tiny a dog can get when it needs to be. And I've got a little 32-inch crate, and I put a 100-pound dog in there out of necessity. They tell me beforehand it's going to be 60 pounds. When it comes to the airport, it's 100. But if I don't take it, the dog is dead. So if we can fit him into the crate, we do.
Gives you an idea of how much effort there is on the ground, though, which is great.
Well, that is it. Between Becky coordinating and Candace, pulling them from the shelter and fostering, and then all the other people that help out, it's a big operation. That's the thing I don't think a lot of people understand when they adopt a dog for one of these places. Like Shaggy's going to Giselle at the Dog Liberator. People don't realize, she has an adoption fee. Last I heard for the younger dogs was about $450, but that doesn't come close to covering her costs. When she gets done with the vet, most times spay and neuter, many times she doesn't turn down an animal that is seriously injured. They spend the money to fix the dog, and then the healthy dogs, of course, end up paying for that. Nobody makes money in rescue. My thing is, I'd actually like to be put out of business. I really would wish they would spay and neuter their pets. I love seeing these pups. I love, playing with them. I love interacting with them, but I'd like to do it for a better reason. So, spay neuter. Executive ground, Sierra 630, Lima Delta going to Showalter.
630, Lima Delta, Orlando executive ground, taking the park.
Going to Showalter.
Back to the Showalter.
At Showalter in Orlando, Florida, Jeff and Ed are met by the rescuers, and with a bit of logistical chaos are able to get each dog on the right path to its new home. From Jeff's 2000th flown rescue to Huey's 10th, the youngest of Pilots and Paws volunteers is only 14 years old. We've all heard the horror stories of abandoned and unwanted pets, but Huey's mission is one of sacrifice. This Weimaraner's family is on a military transfer to Turkey, and she is not allowed to follow.
This is Minnie. Basically, you have to surrender Minnie tonight. Me and my wife are moving to Turkey, and we're not gonna be able to take her with us. She's a high energy, loves attention, loves kids. She's always ready to go, no matter what. Doesn't matter if it's 5 in the morning or 1 o'clock at night. She's ready. She's a great dog. She's housebroken. She listens very well. She's just sad to see her go.
But with the help of rescuers and young people like Huey, both futures definitely seem a little brighter. And these stories are never complete until these animals make it home and see their final spot and become family. Everyone's work, from the rescuers to the pilots, would mean nothing if it weren't for the final adoption and coming home.
He was with a family, and the son went to jail, and the mom died suddenly, and the dad had to give them up. So he and his brother were owner surrendered, and the brother got adopted right away, and nobody wanted Shadow. He was so tall and kind of ornery. So I took him.
So would you say they've won the dog lottery?
Oh my goodness, millions of dollars worth of dog lottery.
I mean, look at that right there. That's just your, you know, he hit jackpot.
Yeah, he's a good boy.
From Orlando to Mississippi and throughout the country, once at-risk animals are finding friends and family. And every now and again, a few even find a job.
When I moved here in 1998, I connected with my friend Richard, and he was hosting a clinic, a trial where he would teach you dog obedience and discipline. And from there, he and his $20 shelter dog went on to rescue people and recover bodies from 9/11. And I thought, if he can do this with a $20 dog, I myself can help bring lost people home. And so I began there, and then we were called out for a lost community member. My husband and I were, and we searched day and night in the 100-degree heat. And I thought, this might be easier with a dog. When I found Maddie, Maddie was housed in Orlando, Florida, and of course, being in Mississippi, that's quite a distance. Fortunately, they turned me on to a group called Pilots and Paws, and pilot by the name of Jeff Bennett offered to fly Maddie from Orlando to me. The moment I first was able to lay my hands on her, there was just an immeasurable amount of love. It's like she was missing, and I was able to get her back. It was just a comfort and an incredible feeling.
We just love them. I don't know, it's something about doing something for an animal that can't do for itself. You hear so many horror stories about dogs that are abused and abandoned, and cats too. So we just feel like we have so much that we can open our home to animals if that's what they need. And clearly, they need. All they need is a little food, a couple of hugs, some treats, a lot of love, and they get it here, that's for sure. Because they always need food and care and somebody to take care of them and give them medicine and make certain that they're well and make certain that they get the best forever family. And We believe in pet rescue and saving these animals, and we can't imagine doing it any other way.
The mission that brings the most joy to me was one that was very difficult for us. We were required to go to the center of a city, which is very busy with passing cars and people. There were 4 young men that were missing, and they knew that 2 of them went in one direction, 2 went in another. And we were given the task to find one of the 2 of the 4 that went in one direction. I gave her scent article and commanded her to go. And then she promptly went left to a cemetery. And there were people in the cemetery and around the cemetery. And she continued, and then she made a hard left. And as soon as she made that hard left, that little boy was sitting right beside a gravestone. When we found that little boy, and I snapped the picture, she had the slobber across her face because she was so heavy in the scent. She was slobbering. Even during the scenario, I tried to get her to take a drink. She wouldn't stop. This dog will not stop until she finds her person. And that day, she found them, and it was joyous. When I think about a rescue dog becoming a rescuer, I think it's profound. Not only do we see this in people, but we see this in dogs. There's plenty of people that have hard stories that have turned their life around and been able to help others. But for this dog, she was tossed aside, left starving to die, and an organization pulled her and saw enough of her that she could at least be a family pet to foster her until somebody came along to adopt her. When I saw her, I definitely saw my pet, but I was hoping she would be so much more than that. And when I go back and I think about the first time I saw her and I was so smitten with her and the connection and bond that I had with her, when I think now of her being my partner and my friend and my family member and my love, that bond hasn't changed. That bond is still there. Only now we're working as a team to help bring others home who are lost. And so Maddie has gone from, as I say, from homeless to hero. And she will continue to do so until she or I, one, are not able to work. And then we'll just go from homeless to couch potato. But she has a page on Facebook called The Life of Madeline Grace. And her middle name being Grace, because it's by grace that she's here.
What would your life be like without dogs?
Oh my goodness. Well, we wouldn't have hair everywhere, and we wouldn't spend so much money on food, and we could take a vacation without worrying about them. But we wouldn't have all this happiness. Somebody to sit with you at night, somebody to bark when the doorbell rings, somebody to take up all the space, to give you kisses in the morning to wake you up. That wasn't happening before these 3, so we're pretty lucky. We have a pretty full life here.
If I didn't have Maddie in my life, I don't really want to imagine that. It's hard to think about life without Maddie. I mean, I know life before Maddie, but life without Maddie, it'd be like a piece of my heart was gone. So I don't care to know life without Maddie.
You know, we have fostered conservatively over 1,000 dogs at this point. And I would say we foster failed Bess, Sunshine, and Riley of those dogs that we've kept. There are some dogs that are magic dogs, and you know that dog is magic, and it's an indefinable thing. I mean, every dog is great. I mean, some I was glad to see get to their homes because they weren't good fits, but every dog is wonderful, but some are magic. And the ones that are magic are the ones that make you feel like they've always been with you and are part of you and know you and are somehow your dog soulmate, if you will, for lack of a better term. And that's a rare thing. When people get onto our Facebook page and they write to us and tell us, thank you, I can't thank you enough for finding this dog. This dog is my life, and I can't imagine ever not having that dog. We can't predict it. We can't tell you this dog is going to be the one, but when it happens, the magic is there, and you can't, it's a sight to behold.
For many of us, it is unimaginable a life without a pet, which is why the shelters, vets, rescuers, fosters, and pilots do what they do, work toward finding that perfect home. For these animals, their journey home is complete. But for others, there's so much more to be done.
I would like to see somewhere in the vicinity of 10,000 pilots willing to volunteer. It's not a huge number when you consider the number of pilots there are in the country. We have several 100,000 pilots in the country, so 10,000 pilots that want to do a rescue flight instead of flying for a hamburger is not unrealistic.
If just one more person that I know turns to adoption, goes to foster, becomes aware of a dog running loose on the street and stops and tries to help it, then that just makes my heart swell. Because to make a difference in your family, friends, and people that you know, while making such a drastic difference in the animals that you come across and help, my whole thing is I want to leave this world better than I found it.
I get up every day knowing that I'm going to lose from the moment I wake up until the moment I go to bed. I will never win this battle. If you want to stop something and you have too many dogs, the solution is to have less dogs. And the way you have less dogs is to spay and neuter. Pure and simple. It'll be a glorious day when I am completely unnecessary and I can go paddle in the Keys in oblivious happiness because there's nothing requiring my immediate attention.
Another mission successfully completed, and Jeff returns to the Keys. Yet he knows that tomorrow is another day, filled with many more challenges to help our furry friends and companions find their way home.